Is it me?
I get. Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's
Hi.
me and,
It me.
and the other.
It us.
We're
It
back
we.
again. Back in it again.
So we hope that all of you have been doing great since our last session here. We have our live coming up on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. So be prepared for some hijinks. Let's call them that. And some low jinks because it's going to be weird.
Yeah, no, let's not. I don't remember signing up for that.
It's fine. Um,
So
uh,
it's next week, and it'll be good. It'll be our third live since we started this. And yeah,
that's
I hope
8 p.m.
everyone.
Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone can attend. And if you haven't downloaded the app, go ahead and download the app because we love chatting with everyone while we're reading the stories. So that would be fun.
It is very nice seeing the viewer count versus the actual live count.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fun. And obviously, no worries if you can't. It's not a big deal.
Oh, wait. I thought
Huh?
there were worries if they. Uh-oh.
What? No, if they can't download the app, they can't chat. But
Oh,
if they can't download the app, they can't download the app. What am I gonna do?
oh no.
Execution.
Oh no.
Oh,
No,
did
it's
you
fine.
already?
It's fine.
Did
No, I already sent the request. So what's our stories for this week?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I going first? Okay, so without further ado,
Allie.
I guess it is me who reads Kristen's story first. It is I.
It is she.
It is me. So the prompt was a boy that can interact with the urban legends of their city. And the story is titled Heir of Mnemosyne.
So for anybody who isn't aware of who or what Mnemosyne is or means, Mnemosyne is a goddess from Greek mythology that is the mother of the nine muses, which would be the nine muses encompass poetry, like epic poetry, history, music, lyric poetry, love poetry, tragedy, hymns, dance, comedy, astronomy. So just wanted to give you guys that little tidbit of information before Michelle starts the story. You may continue.
Okay, cool. So, here it goes. Another new area to explore. Ozzy had just moved into a new city and was very excited to check out the area and find all kinds of information about this place. At the young age of just 10 years old, he had already lived in more cities than he could count. Traveling was a big part of his life as mysterious things had continued to follow him everywhere he went. If he ever got too comfortable in one place, they would show up and he would have to leave again. Even though he didn't mind that they showed up, it was really just bothersome to have to deal with so many of them at once, not on his own terms at his own pace. Being as adventurous as Ozzy was, his first hope was to see all the sights the city had to offer, but quickly decided he would relax and take his time as it was just the first day. Although this wasn't a very large city, it was still big enough that you would need a vehicle to explore it all in one day, and that wouldn't be possible at his age. But he was very ambitious, and somehow always seemed to get his way. He seemed to be a very special kid, gifted with some unique abilities. Before setting out on his journey for the day, he had packed his bag with a couple snacks, some water, and an ornate box that he always liked to keep the things he found inside of. He had a knack for finding certain things of interest. It was almost a sixth sense. Everywhere he went, he did so with purpose and had never failed to find something valuable. Now that he was all set and ready to start his day, he took a deep breath of fresh air and started running. "Whee! Adventure! Adventure!" he would scream at the top of his lungs, smiling. He started noticing just how beautiful the city was. There were a lot of buildings, but not enough to say it was crammed. It was just enough to host a moderate buzz of people throughout the streets and still cater to nature by having lovely grassy areas with an abundance of large, lush trees. The city had a lot of public parks, filled with huge gardens. The one in the center of the city was the one that he had been aiming for, the largest park this city had, the most infamous as well, but not for its lush foliage and flora. The park was famous for another reason. Ozzy wandered the park and got a nice look at everything. It was so relaxing and fragrant. All of the different flowers were so beautiful. He decided to take a nap in a flower bed for a bit, as he had yet to find what he was looking for, but he knew that he would find it by the time he awakened. The night sky was pitch black almost, only tiny dots of lights barely visible in the sky which could only be assumed to be stars at this point. Ozzy looked around and noticed right away that he couldn't see the night sky's shimmering lights due to a mist that had engulfed the area. This is what he came for. Now, Ozzy was by no means a normal 10-year-old boy. In fact, he had been 10 for hundreds of years, and the reason for that has shown up here tonight. There it stood in the middle of the flower beds, a giant, beautiful plant releasing these misty spores from its blossoms. Ozzy looked at it in amazement and approached. "Why, hello there. Who might you be? What brings you to the city?" he inquired politely. "Oh, you aren't scared?" "Well, you should have ran while you had the chance." The plant began to shake its leaves, echoing a loud, rattling sound. The spores poured out quicker and the mist thickened even further. "Oh well, I tried to have a nice conversation with you, but no matter." He reached into his bag and pulled out his ornate box. "I hope you enjoyed your time here." He smiled and opened the box. As the lid slowly opened, howls and screams poured out and a strong gust began sucking in the mist. Stronger and stronger the howls made their way as the gust was pulling in the plant. Due to the plant being deeply rooted, it was taking a bit more time than expected, and a thin, long clawed hand grabbed from the inside of the box onto the edges, as if it was trying to pull itself out. "No, bad. You stay there." Ozzy flicked the hand and it released the box, letting out a shriek of despair as it was swallowed back down into the pit. The plant's leaves had already been torn apart from the strong vacuuming wind, absorbing them all easily, until finally the roots snapped and the entire plant hurled towards Ozzy and was sucked up into the ornate box with ease. Once the plant had been fully swallowed into the box, he gently shut it and smiled while closing his eyes. "Ah, the Midtown Mandragora was your name. You definitely made quite the reputation here, it seems. How many bodies did you pull down into your soil to nourish your roots?" Ozzy was able to see all of the events of the creature's life flash before him. The story unfolded in his mind, like a movie playing that showcased how this creature became so famous. After a sewer pipe exploded underground and eventually spewed up through the city's manholes, the park was closed. The pipes had been connected to a laboratory which had been shut down due to pollution concerns, as they poured a lot of their no longer usable chemicals down the drains. This chemical waste had been spread across all of the park and resulted in it needing to be cleaned, which took an entire month. Shortly after, people began to make stories of the misty spores in the park at night, which they could see from their apartments. It wasn't until one person who was wearing a mask fell asleep on a park bench, awoke to the sight of the giant plant wriggling as it was slowly pulling people into its soil. The person had to run out of the park screaming and immediately ran to the news station to report this. That was when the name Midtown Mandragora was made. As the night fell, the Mandragora would let out that sweet scented mist and put any creatures to sleep if they were nearby. Unfortunately for them, the roots would either drag them down into the soil where the spores in their system would melt their bodies from the inside out to fertilize the roots, or, on occasion, if it was feeling particularly naughty, it would scoop them up and swallow them from the main bloom. I better get out of here before the part I hate comes. Hurriedly rushing out of the park, he caught glimpses of bluish-white figures climbing out of the soil. "Ugh, they're already here," he sighed while rushing back to his home. Every time Ozzy would capture another one of these creatures in his ornate box, all of their victims' spirits would be set free, it seemed. At first, it seemed really endearing to him that all of the souls were being released and could finally ascend to a better place than being trapped with the monsters that murdered them. However, the ones that did not ascend had a habit of following him, albeit at a slow pace, to show their gratitude. To them, they must have felt like their eternal praise and gratitude would bring him joy, but to him it was a bit of a hindrance, having hundreds and thousands of souls following you around. Thankfully for him, every time he moved to another city, the souls would take a few weeks to catch up, so he had time. Unfortunately for him, when he goes to another city, he tends to find more of these creatures and capture them, which in turn releases more thankful spirits. Finally, making it back to where he was staying, he would close all the curtains and blinds to ensure that there was no way for anyone to see him inside of his home. After a successful capture, he had to perform a small ritual to convert that creature's energy into his useful essence, while also making them weak enough to not be able to break free and wreak havoc once more. As previously mentioned, Ozzy had been 10 for hundreds of years, and he is actually a descendant of the goddess Mnemosyne, who dealt with memory and remembrance, and was also the mother of the 9 muses. When Ozzy was born, he was given the task to travel the world and seek out stories that had gotten too out of control and were bringing about unbalance for the humans. The ornate box he was provided didn't just suck in creatures, it also managed to erase their existence from the world, as if they never existed. Due to this being a power of the gods, humans had no memory lapses in this. Maybe that is the true reason why the spirits are following Ozzy. They aren't grateful, but feeling sorrowful that their existence had been wiped away and are trying to keep their memory alive, since he cannot forget and he cannot die. Someone will always know who they were. The rules of this job was never explained to Ozzy. It was just a simple task carved into his being upon creation. After his ritual was done, he felt full of energy and overwhelmed with happy emotions. "This city is going to be a lot of fun," he exclaimed as he set out with his box again, heading to the next location he suspected would have another myth. Perhaps the gods kept him at the age of 10 to keep him blissfully unaware of the pain the spirits feel when they are set free but forgotten from this world. Or maybe he figured it out and just tricks himself into believing they are praising him for setting them free. What was important to him was that everything in this box stays sealed away and that he is doing the job he was born to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that was cool.
It's like he can interact with the urban legends and the myths and stuff of the city, but he actually just eaten them. I mean, it's just like, if you think about it, there's so many like myths and stuff where it's just like, oh, this woman always appears on the highway at nighttime and cars keep like veering off and dying because they don't want to hit her. Meanwhile, her spirit's literally just there trying to tell them like, hey guys, please don't veer off and die. But she's actually causing the accidents. So it's like, you may have good intentions, but...
Oh, he would eat those ones too, the urban legends that are friendly. He would eat those too?
Anything that's causing too much trouble.
Anything that's unbalancing the world, I guess.
Exactly.
Really
it's kind of like, I don't know if you have heard that urban legend, though.
Yeah, I have the one with the woman, but I think it's Japanese.
I'm pretty sure this one's like an American one.
Really?
Yeah.
I have heard that one.
Yeah, because it's just like, she's trying to warn people like, hey, this bridge, be careful, you can. But then they're just like, oh my god, woman, and then they kill themselves. And it's
oh my god, woman, no!
Ah. So.
Yeah.
A little like counterproductive, I would say.
What, to eat them?
No, for her to be like, let me save you, watches them die. Not again.
Why don't
Maybe I
should
stop doing this, but because I am a spirit, I am tied and bound by repetitive things, and
Yeah.
I must repeat this action.
Stop distracting people while they're driving. It's okay.
I kind of like it. At least now I got company.
She's just, hey, there's a bridge. Whoa!
Ooh. So yeah, what part did you, and where did you, but then how did you?
Well, I used my eyes, and I looked at the letters, and they formed words, and then I read it.
That's exactly how I wrote it. Oh my god.
Oh my god, how? No, but I really liked it. It was cool because I like the end part that was kind of just, why are the souls following him around? And then it was like questioning. At first, you know, we're told that the souls are following him because they want to give him some kind of eternal like gratitude, or that's what he thought anyway. But then it was like, or are the souls following him because he's basically erased their entire existence and people's memory of them from the world, and so now he's the only person that can remember them. He's the only person that remembers, and so in an attempt to be remembered, they follow him, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I really liked that part. I really liked as well the box when it opened, the screams were coming out because every single myth is still alive in there. And if this box does stay open for too long, if they have regained any bit of strength, they can come back and become existent again.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, who knows? Maybe there's a part 2 where someone tries to steal the box, another god.
So he's supposed to be the heir of Mnemosyne?
Yeah, because so Mnemosyne is all about remembering and memories and things like that and stories. So for him, he's kind of like a keeper now. This box that he was given makes him the keeper of those memories, all those myths and stuff. He's the only one that'll have that knowledge. He's the only one that can, like, he's gonna be in charge of it, who he shares that with. So like he's like a descendant from her, and she has bestowed this task upon him.
Yeah.
Fun fact, she's also a titaness. She's not just a goddess.
He's like one of the titans, as in the generation that gave birth to Zeus.
She's actually Zeus's aunt.
Oh, cool.
Yes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I really do like her. She's very cool, especially since like without her I don't think we would have such things. Like, I mean, if we were speaking in the sense of people's beliefs and worshipping Mnemosyne would technically be like the originator of, like, I guess I could even say parts of creativity, because she's the mother of the 9 muses, and without the 9 muses, people wouldn't have those retellings of certain things. They wouldn't have those inspirations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So she's in charge of all. That's really cool.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yes. If I had Ozzy's box here, you know what I would do?
What?
I would swallow up Karis from My Cupid Story.
Okay.
Just because he did such a great job that should be forgotten.
That should be forgotten, I think. Yes. But
Yeah.
I mean, like, technically Karis isn't from the human world, right?
He's not, no. Him and Ozzy would probably be on the same level because they both are celestials that have to go interact with the human world, so they could potentially be friends.
Yeah.
I don't think Karis would like him. I think Ozzy would be like super excited, and Karis would just be like, I'm not sure how to handle this.
Yeah, and I also think that if, like, you know, Ozzy ate him, Karis' family would probably start a war, no?
They'd forget, so no.
But, like, I thought the box only made humans forget.
No. Cherubs are up there, but Mnemosyne was a titaness, so her power that she can grant Ozzy, much better.
So then, why doesn't Ozzy just take over the world?
Because he's 10 years old.
Oh.
Yeah.
When I was old, I tried to take over the world.
But yeah, no. He would never. He can't affect other gods. It's just the human world.
But isn't he like over 100? So he's like 100 and like a couple hundred years and 10. But he's got. So wait, I don't mean to think about it this much.
No. You do, because the thing is, he is perpetually 10 years old, and basically the gods are keeping him even in the mindset. Like, he can't learn and have like the mental age of anything hundreds of years old.
But if he stops taking the flower, the like myth
the
energy,
yeah.
then
Well, the thing, because they carved it into his being upon creation, he knows nothing else but to do this thing.
So he's just programmed to
exactly.
do this without having a choice.
Yeah, like if another person, like let's just say one of the muses even came and was like, Ozzy, have you wondered what would happen if you didn't absorb the energy? He'd probably be like, that doesn't make sense. I've done this for hundreds of years. Don't tell me how to do my job.
Wait a minute, that don't make no sense.
Right? And then, the second that he does it, what would happen? Would he start aging normally? Would he no longer have access to his powers because like he didn't follow the ritual? Does the ritual keep his powers going?
Yeah, no.
Like there's all these things. So it's like we gotta ask the people who carved into him and do that. That's a story for another time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, do.
Yeah.
And speaking of Yadu, let's get on over to Michelle's story.
Yes.
So Michelle has provided us with a story brought to you by us. So Michelle's prompt for this week was: a king is hosting a tournament looking for a bodyguard for their son. However, one of the contestants is the son's lover. So let's see. The story is called The Nymph Prince's Harvest. Of all the lands in the east, the kingdom of Calmine exported the most mandrakes, which were a staple for all magical creatures. Mandrakes were used in all kinds of mystic dishes and were extremely healthy. The mermaids started using the juices from them as shampoo and perfume. The centaurs coated their arrow tips in concentrated mandrake sap. Even the elves, who looked down on herbal medicine that wasn't their own, started making use of these remedies. In recent years, the demand for mandrakes went way up, but nobody had the means to produce them, giving the kingdom of Calmine a monopoly on the market. Mandrakes needed woodland soil, water, and plenty of sunlight to grow, but to flourish and become enchanted, they needed a more unique fertilizer. The fertilizer consisted of bat guano, the wings of flies, and the nightmares of human beings. Objectively, all those ingredients were easy to acquire, except for the human nightmares. That's where I come in. I am the Prince of Calmine, next in line for the throne. I am able to sense the distress of any living creature near me. I know it sounds pretty normal, but it became something of the utmost importance in the business world. With this ability, I was able to locate and extract nightmares at an ungodly speed. And so, I became a target for all the other nations in this realm. I was but a simple nymph, son of normal nymph royalty. It didn't make sense that I was given a gift at all. That's what they all thought. There were investigations on whether my family had deals with the ancients, or if there were any ties with higher powers through other societies, but to no avail. No one could come up with an explanation for why I was the way I was, but I knew there simply wasn't an explanation. They were just baffled that I was a nymph. It was time again for the harvest in the human realm. During the week leading up to my departure, the kingdom would send me off with a celebration they had called the Nightmare Festival. There would be music, street plays, and vendors making souvenirs for tourists. It was a lively event where people would pretend to be and dress up like humans. Whenever I came back from the harvest, the citizens would gather in the town square and listen to me tell them tales of the nightmares I saw. And the next year, during the festival, they would act out those stories in the street plays. I had to admit, it was actually pretty fun to rewatch some of the more interesting nightmares I had seen. This year, however, in the week leading up to my departure, the king, my father, had decided to hold a tournament to find me a bodyguard. I usually went on this excursion by myself, as I moved faster alone, having learned the quickest ways around the human city. And to be honest, I didn't trust anyone with me to not do something stupid, like expose themselves to the humans. But last year didn't go so smoothly. During the whole time I was in the human realm, I was being hunted by assassins of all types. If it hadn't been for some of their guilt in killing an innocent person and my knowledge of human infrastructure, that would have been it for me. That year, I had to come home with half as many nightmares as usual. It was crucial to my father to find someone strong enough to protect me. He had never even liked letting me go alone in the first place, and now he wasn't going to let me leave without at least one bodyguard of the best of the best. The tournament was supposed to be a fight to the death, and I had my reservations about that too. But I didn't say anything as I already knew who was going to win. His name was Cyril. He was a knight, but he didn't have any major accomplishments to brag about in his service to the kingdom, because we live in peaceful times. Not that he would ever brag about anything. He constantly topped the charts of knights' training tests, and I had nothing but faith in him. He was a man that never showed his emotions on his face. I would describe him as the strong, silent type. Emphasis on strong. But he didn't seem to think so. We met when he ended up saving me one day from what was probably another assassination attempt in the form of a rampaging griffin. I had been out in the mandrake fields, just checking on them, and I had wandered a bit too far into the woods when a griffin came galloping through the trees and almost trampled me to death with its claws. Cyril had been able to stop the beast with his bare hands, calming it, and letting it go back into the woods, all without breaking a sweat. I hadn't even sensed him in the area, but as it turned out, he followed me after seeing me wander into the woods, just in case something like that happened. Since then, I've been smitten. He was very quiet for such a huge, strong guy, and also very smart. He always had a contingency plan for the smallest of things, like if I was ever too hot or too cold, he would carry a fan or an extra sweater with him for me, but never took a compliment or thought much of himself. I had to convince him to join the tournament because he didn't think he would win. If it wasn't for him, I never would have attended the tournament. Even though I knew he would win, and I knew that for some reason the other knights thought they were better than him, I was still annoyed to watch them tease him in the competitors' boxes from across where I was spectating with my father. It reminded me of the teasing I had to endure when I was a young boy. My cousins, and any other little noble kids, would tease me about the uselessness of my ability. It wasn't until much later that I learned the true value of it. I had asked for the rules of the tournament to be changed slightly so it would end quicker. Instead of a normal tournament style, it would basically be a series of one-on-one matches with one knight staying on the field until he lost. Of course, starting with the knight that's topped all his tests. I just wanted to see how Cyril would show everyone how strong he was, and show them he did. This way, there wouldn't be any need for mindless killing of our own people because of barbaric, old-fashioned rules, because Cyril dominated all of them without killing anyone. With every opponent that fell, the smile on my face grew wider and wider. He had won the entire tournament in a couple of hours. After the tournament, I couldn't contain myself and ran down to the winner's corner to congratulate him in person. On the way there, I bumped into something huge and fell to the floor. Looking up to see what I had run into, I was greeted by his expressionless face as he held out his hand to help me out. He had been on his way to see me as well. As I took his hand, he apologized. I sensed the tiniest bit of distress, and I looked up at him smiling. "I knew you could do it," I said. Instead of taking the compliment like any normal knight would, he brushed off with a wave of his hand. This part of him annoyed me. I knew he would make an excellent bodyguard and that I could trust him not to hinder me on the harvest, but I would trade all that just so he would have some pride in himself for once. As it turned out, he didn't like having that much attention on him at one time, and he was already distressed from the excitement of the tournament, so I stayed silent. We had 4 more days to prepare for the harvest. Luckily, I already taught him all the routes in the human world before the tournament because those 4 days were hell. The amount of assassins that showed up from all over the place was criminal to say the least. Pun intended. I spent almost all of my time hiding in the bunker in the castle while knights patrolled looking for anybody suspicious in the influx of tourists. Cyril was only able to visit me every other day because the captain of the guard wanted to give him special training with weapons used by assassins. It got so bad that my father had almost cancelled the harvest altogether, but I was not having it. The human world was my turf. Unless these assassins had been following me for years before, which they hadn't, they would never be able to catch me with Cyril by my side. Not to mention, we'd be doing exactly what they wanted by making me hide in the basement of the castle instead of harvesting the key ingredient for the mandrake fertilizer. I wasn't going to let the other nations push our kingdom around. The day finally came to open the portal to the human world and start the harvest. My father was begging me to take more knights along at this point, but again and again I refused, explaining that a smaller team would have the advantage in the human realm. He didn't believe me, of course, but his cries fell on deaf ears as I nodded to the mages to open the portal. Cyril jumped through the portal first, and I had followed close behind. The human world was as beautiful and bright as it was last year. It was so vast that nymphs like us couldn't simply walk anymore. We had to fly, our legs turning into wisps of energy since we would never touch the ground while we were here. Before we could take off into the sky, I stopped and took in a deep breath. It smelled like human cooking. I stared at the insanely high structures that so perfectly reflected the sky like giant mirrors. I did this every year, just drinking in the sensations of a different world. I was even hoping that I would have been able to catch some kind of expression on Sirius's face at the sight of all this, but he simply stayed on the ground with me on high alert, watching for anything and everything. He caught me looking at him, and seemed to have mistaken that as a symbol that I was ready to leave, because he floated up into the sky to survey for anything suspicious, then gave me the okay to join him. The sun was still setting, so we were a bit too early to start harvesting. It would have been safer to arrive right on time when most of the humans were asleep. But I loved to watch the sunset here. Admittedly, I was too comfortable in the human world, treating it like a vacation rather than work. I began showing Cyril around to my favorite places, far too excited for my own good. Even with the distractions I was causing, Cyril spotted something in his peripheral vision and pulled me behind a building. Peeking around the corner, I caught a glimpse of an assassin's wispy tail darting around to catch us from behind. A nymph. Cyril silently hinted at there being a group of them. Before they could come behind us, we were whizzing between the feet of the humans as close to the ground as possible to try and shake them. Even I was impressed at how easily Cyril was keeping up with me. All that training was actually useful. No matter how many sharp turns or evasive maneuvers we pulled, we just couldn't shake them. Figures. Whoever was after me had wised up since last year. Only a nymph could catch a nymph, especially one as fast as me. Cyril veered next to me and signaled that we should head for an island off the shore, effectively exposing ourselves to any other assassins in the area once we tried to cross the water. It seemed like a bad idea, but then I trusted him with everything I had and started to fly in the direction of the island. There were hardly any people here, and it was smaller than the mainland, but still way too big for a nymph to walk around on. And on the island was a giant copper statue in the shape of a person holding a book in one hand and a torch in the other. We flew into the headpiece of the statue because I was getting nervous being out in the open for that long. Once inside the headpiece, Cyril showed me a gadget that the captain of the guard had given him. It was a small metal ball with glowing runes on it, I immediately recognized it as a tool for catching nymphs, which were illegal in the kingdom. Before I could ask him why the captain had it, he threw it at lightning speed out of the small opening we came through, and I heard something fall with a loud thump. I was about to go down and see what he had caught, but he held his arm up, stopping me from going through the hole. "Wait here, I'll be quick," he said. With that, he jumped through the hole with the gracefulness of a light breeze, and he was back just as quickly. He was holding the assassin up by the restraints that were an enchanted rope designed to immobilize nymphs. The kingdom ruled the tool cruel and unusual punishment as it took away a nymph's legs, forcing them into their tail state. But I guess we still have some lying around. The nymph was thrashing and swearing, calling Cyril all kinds of names. I didn't like how rude he was being, so I gave him the hardest slap I could to shut him up. "Who do you work for?" I demanded when the echoes of the sound of my hand hitting his face finally died down. Cyril put the assassin down and began covering the hole with his cloak. The space in the statue's headpiece was very small and only had one entrance, making it a good resting spot until they could extract the information that the king needed in order to take care of things on his end. The nymph refused to answer my question. "How much are they paying you?" I sighed. This was the quickest way to get anything done in my experience. Still, silence, as if even he didn't know how much he was getting paid. Who would take a job without knowing how much they were getting paid? I asked. The assassin scoffed. "I know how much I'm getting paid, but I don't need to tell you anything." He spat at me. That seemed to bother Cyril, because this man, who had never complained about anything or gave away any emotion, stomped over to the assassin, lifted him by the neck, and slammed him against the wall with the angriest expression I had ever seen on anyone. I moved over to Cyril to try and calm him down. Now, there's no reason to get so angry just yet. He didn't even touch me," I said, tapping his shoulder. Cyril dropped the nymph to the floor, and I knelt down beside him. "The elves sent you, didn't they?" I asked, staring him right in the eyes. If this assassin was any indication of the rest of them, it seemed that this squad might just be incompetent, because at my question, his eyes grew wide, and he stared at me in disbelief. There was my answer. My father and I already had our suspicions since the elders of the elf kind had foolishly huge egos, and were the most opposition we had. "I'll take that as a yes," I said, standing up. That was all I needed to tell my father in order for him to be able to do anything. Flustered, the nymph struggled to turn himself upwards to face me. "How did you know?" he asked. I took out a pen and paper and began writing a report to my father. The faster I was able to send this letter, the faster I would be done with these amateurish assassins. Not that I was complaining, but you'd think that the elves would be able to take me a bit more seriously than this. Not looking up from my writing, I answered him. "I can tell from that look in your eyes that you don't know how much you're getting paid for this job. I wouldn't recommend this barbaric profession for anyone, but if you're going to pursue it, you need to make sure you're getting paid properly, or you'll give a bad name to all nymphs. Let me guess. You had your prices and gave them a quote, and then they haggled you down so much that they just decided to pay you after the job was done, effectively confusing you out of your own rate." I sensed distress build with every word I spoke. I stopped to listen for a response, but none came. Only elves would do that, especially to nymph kind, I explained. I finished the letter and began fastening it to his cloak. "You are welcome to live in the kingdom of Calmine along with other nymph folk after this. Or you can go back to the elves who have their heads so far up their asses they don't even feel the need to pay you right. The choice is yours. However, we will not let you go until you testify against them for us in the court of the ancients." I explained all with a mocking smile on my face as I opened the portal back to our realm and booted him through. The entire time, Cyril had been keeping watch on our surroundings, making sure that the others didn't try anything. One testimony might not be enough, I muttered. Do you have any more of those things? I asked him. In response, he held up 2 more metal balls. Did you see how many assassins there... Before I could finish my question, something came barreling through the hole in the statue into the cape that was covering it. It took me a second to realize what had happened. One of the Nymph assassins seemed to have lost their patience and kamikazed into the statue looking for their teammate. She had a dagger in one hand and locked eyes with me. Right as she pounced, a fist smashed into her jaw, sending her into the wall with a crunch, knocking her unconscious. Oh, that's convenient, I said, happily tying her up with the rope we brought along and kicking her through the portal home as well. Alone again, we looked at each other, probably thinking the same thing. These assassins weren't a threat. The sun had completely set now, and I was feeling nightmares all around us. I took in a deep breath and sighed. This was my favorite part. Let's start the harvest. The harvest went on for about a week, or until I filled up my quota for the year. My father giving me more and more each year just to challenge me. I usually always finished 2 or 3 days in advance, leaving myself with a few days to mess around in the human realm. But I wouldn't dare tell him that, because he'd probably tell me to come back right away. I floated in through windows and ventilation pipes while the humans slept in their beds. It was usually the littlest of the humans who had the most nightmares, and my favorite part would be seeing their little faces calm once I'd extract the nightmare and stored it in my satchel. This year was especially fun because along the way I had Cyril with me, who was catching assassins alive without even using the nymph traps and sending them back through the portal to the kingdom. And he seemed to be having fun with it. You're really in your element out here, aren't you? I mused at him one day. He looked at me, somewhat kind of taken aback by the compliment, and smiled. Yeah, it's kind of fun, he said. So you're coming with me next year too, right? I asked, though it was more of a request than anything. He smiled again and nodded. If that's what you want, Your Highness. When we finally got back home, I was rushed into meeting after meeting to deal with the lawsuit against the elves. In the end, we agreed that once we won the case, which we would, the elves would be barred from buying mandrakes from us and would be stuck with their own lower quality, old-timey mandrakes. This way, their own citizens would probably turn on the elders and overthrow their monarchies, making an example of the elves for any other nation that thought they could do the same to us just for being nymphs, effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone. From then on, my trips to the human world were peaceful, and I even got someone I could trust with my life to accompany for years to come. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah?
That's a happy story. Look at you.
Yeah, I forget.
I forget how to not be happy now.
That's all I got in me. That's all the happiness I got in me.
I really want to see what you do for April Fools, how horrific that's going to be.
Yeah, so like, you know, I was like, I wanted to do something like really cute. And then like I also had the idea to I was like, okay, why would the prince need a bodyguard? There's many reasons, but I was like, let me make up like a really cool reason, and then I did that, and then I just was like, oh, let's also go to the human world and harvest nightmares. And I was like, oh, this is fun.
I just don't understand how like both of our stories are basically people going to the human world harvesting nightmares. And yours was mandrakes, and mine was mandragora, which is mandrake. So it's like,
yeah, no, I quit. I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm done. Goodbye. I'm done. No.
Yeah, this is the problem where you like share a brain. You know,
2 halves of one brain.
2 halves of one.
To have some half a book.
Yeah. But I really like that story. It's very sweet. I liked exactly how it went. Everything that was going on there was exactly how life should be, you know?
Yeah.
Elven assassins, except okay, I, an elf, would never hire a nymph to, do that because, I mean, elven assassins are just more effective.
Okay, but only a nymph can catch a nymph.
Okay, but that's not true.
Says who? I wrote the damn story.
Yeah, but I'm an elf, so
also I want to
our magic is
villainize elf.
superior.
Everyone
villainizes elves.
Yeah.
Why does everyone villainize like the gnomes, the dwarves, the people who are like the giants? The disgusting parts of the world and society.
Yeah, so that's why we villainize elves, because they have their heads so far up their own asses they think that every other parts of society is disgusting.
Look, everybody has their flaws, and all the other races just seem to have them more than elves do.
Yeah, and so that's why people villainize elves, because they're evil. Yeah, and so you're proving my point.
Well, everybody can leave a comment saying, what do you prefer? Do you guys like orcs? Do you like elves? Do you like nymphs? What's your favorite mythological race? Or anything like that, Maybe you're all a fan of centaurs.
Are we gonna start a race war? I need everyone.
You can't say that. That's
I need everyone's
end of this. At the end
favorite...
of this thing, you're just like, I'm gonna start a race war.
Yes. I need everyone's favorite mythical race to be nymphs now. Thank you.
You know what? I will put up a poll on our site, and you guys can vote. You guys can vote, or even there'll be another, and you can add in what your favorite thing is. So we can actually get the numbers, and then when we come back next week, we can show Michelle that elves are superior.
Well, of course people like elves more because, elves have been given such good media for, as long as we've all been alive. So, really, there's not enough representation for the other races, and so why would anyone pick any other race they don't know anything about? Are we gonna start a race war?
Yeah, it looks like we really are. But next week is going to be April Fool's Day. Also going to be our...
Live.
She got it. So we have some exciting prompts for you that we're going to be doing. Just in, the lightheartedness, funness, and, maybe Michelle can take this in, it's already pretty dark, but the prompt that I have for you next week is I want you to rewrite 50 Shades of Grey. That's going to be your April Fool's prompt.
What a nightmare you are.
Untitled.
Untitled.
It's just the way us elves think.
Well, in that case, your prompt is to 50 Shades of Grey. Your prompt is to also rewrite 50 Shades of Grey.
You know what? Easy. It's I got it in the bag. So many bags. I got it in Prada bags. This is going to be easy.
So we're getting 2 new versions of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. Mine is going to be
my
50
God.
shapes of elven ears.
Oh, wow. That sounds really bad. That sounds really, really... I really hope you don't do that.
I really hope I don't do that.
I really hope I don't have to sit through and read.
Oh, yeah. You're going to...
50 shapes of elf ears?
No. 50 shapes.
That's what I said.
No, you going to say shades?
I said shapes, but I started laughing.
Oh, no. She's laughing. But thanks again, everyone, for listening in, and we hope you all have a fabulous week.
Yeah, tune in next week, 8 o'clock. What? PST? What is this?
We're in Eastern. We don't... Psst.
Okay, tune in next week, 8 o'clock EST. And yeah, don't feel shy to chat in. Please chat in. I love when we get into a discussion about the story.
And apparently next week you can have a live race war with us.
Oh, shit. I forgot. This is going to be live. And so, yeah, there's going to be alive or so.
Yeah.
Okie dokie then.
Bye.
Bye.
Seconds. No, I'm just saying we're ready to. This isn't going in. You're not. Okay.
I do for the good of the peppo. Okay, I need water. Hold on.